Hi, we're Dan and Carol. It is beautiful springtime. We're at about a point where the leaves are going to start to pop, the grass is turning green. I got to thinking, it's a lot about kind of like what goes on in our relationships.
You mean the newness, or what do you mean?
Yeah, the newness, regeneration. However, that it takes a kind of a conscious awareness. In the springtime, it just kind of happens. And yet in a relationship, it's like, if things aren't quite the way we want them, it was kind of deadish through the winter. Maybe it's time to rejuvenate things and kick things up a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. And so, what are your thoughts around how we might kick that up or rejuvenate?
I love experiments. In the garden, it's fun to say, well, this is what we did last year. Let's try something a little bit different. Or, this is not quite the way we want it here. Let's try something a little different and see how it goes. And I think that relates really well in a relationship, too. If to be aware, to be consciously aware, that's a big piece. And say, this isn't quite the way I want it to be. Can we experiment a little bit?
Well, and I love that idea of experimentation because it says to me there's no right or wrong. Like, my science brain says, okay, well, let's try this. And if we get the results that we say that we want, then we can continue to do more of it. But if we don't, then we can, make some changes and try again.
So I can go out in the garden and I can make a whole bunch of changes without saying anything to you. And you might come out there and say, what the hell are you doing?
I might not notice it until a little bit later, but yes.
So I think that it's really important that we're able to communicate about these things and communicate about the experiment and so that we're both aware of it, we're both willing and ready to try.
That's true. And so, as I think about what would be an example in a relationship where we might experiment.
Well, for an example, if let's say that we've just been having some coldness. We haven't been really talking much. We've sort of been avoiding each other, not really even knowing why. Jobs, work, community, whatever it is. To be able to be aware of it and say, what, I really don't like what's going on here. I don't know why it's happening, and that doesn't matter. But I'd like to experiment. Can we try, maybe could we commit to having a cup of coffee together or breakfast together every morning and just chatting about things? And then for you to agree to it so that we can actually give it a go.
Yeah. And with that, what I see is the need to then check in every now and then and say, is this giving me what we want? Now, first of all, why would we do that? What is it that we want to gain by having coffee or breakfast or whatever together? And if it's a sense of closeness or if it's time together or if it's something else, if we've communicated that and we know what it is that we're seeking with that experiment, then there's an opportunity down the road, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, to be able to check back in and say, is this giving us what we were experimenting with?
Yeah. And it can be, kind of hard to judge those things, to evaluate those things, and yet, to do it on a scale of 1 to 10. So today, here we're aware of this. We're going to start the experiment. Where am I feeling in our connection, our closeness? That's probably only about a 4. And then in a week's time to say, how do you feel now? I'd rate it a little bit better.
Yeah, so it gives kind of a baseline then.
Yeah.
To start, and then to be able to see how does that compare with that.
And to be in that evaluation point to say, well, it's really not totally working for me. Could we adjust it and do it at a different time of the day or try a different way? Then that's a really important piece too.
And again, to keep in mind what it is we're wanting to attain by doing what? Experimenting with something different.
Yeah, and to be totally aware of the feelings. Well, I'm not really feeling this is great. Or, yeah, I'm really excited about this. It's great.
Yeah.
To be able to talk about that and to share those feelings.
And one of the other pieces that's just coming up for me right now with an experiment is to give it a long enough time. Not to say, okay, I want to go from a 4 to a 6 in how I'm feeling about my closeness with you, so let's have coffee tomorrow. That's not really enough time to kind of, give it a go and try it for a bit.
And it has to be long enough that we kind of develop a bit of a habit so that it doesn't take a whole lot of work and effort. It just happens.
Yeah. So that leaves me with a sense of curiosity, which kind of goes with experimenting. I'm just wondering about you. What would be important for you to experiment with if you chose to do that?
Are you talking to me or to our listeners?
Yeah, you, but you and I can talk later.
But so repeat that, because that's really worth hearing.
Well, I was just thinking about what would be important to you to experiment with
Yeah.
in your relationship.
What is working well? What is not quite as good as you would like it to be? And what are you willing to do?
To try, to experiment with.
And then set up a time to talk to your partner and communicate about it so that you're both on the same page.
Oh, darn, we got to talk then. Okay, I'm up to it. Are you?
Okay. So have fun with it. Give it a go. Experiment and see how it works for you.